place for me to feel comfortable, because if you have what sounds like a very simple and obvious statement, but you then sort of apply that to whatever challenge you're facing. So in this particular case, as an organisation, doing the right thing is helping others in need as an organisation, so getting seriously engaged with the community and using the fabulous resources that we have as an organisation to get out there and make a difference. I can see that as an entirely logical thing in the context of driving shareholder value, because doing the right thing out in the community is something that then enhances our reputation. The number of people I talk to within the organisation who say that they may have been here 20 or 30 years, but the stance we've taken in the last 5 years on a whole range of issues has made them feel really proud to be part of this organisation. People who are proud, not apologetic to say they work in a particular company, actually are more engaged, they're more productive, they give better customer service, we get better shareholder value. And so one of the things I particularly out there on the hustings about is talking to my colleagues throughout the corporate world around this logical linkage, which to me should really be driving them to do more and more out in the community and use their resources to make a difference in the language, Pamela, that you use to be sort of just leaders.
Thank you. Now, Elliot, when I walked into Kinfolk Cafe down the bottom of Burke Street, I just went, wow, this is somehow inverting capitalism. It's doing something entirely different. I felt fabulous being there. I looked at the things on the walls and I thought, this is just speaking of something really new and really different. Tell us what you're trying to make happen in the world.
Yeah, sure. I guess that's an interesting place to start. Personally, my passion is embedded in that first story, and it's talking about using myself as a vehicle to fight for those less fortunate, and that's the core principle of my journey. And I guess what feeds off from that is providing others the opportunity too. Personally doing a self-assessment on where my skills are best fit, and looking at my passion and wanting to be overseas and being in the field and fighting out there in developing communities, I realised that I probably am more valuable here in Australia, specifically here in Melbourne, because I can provide opportunities for my friends and colleagues and university members, university friends, family members to also make a difference too. And that's the vehicle we're trying to create with YGAP and with our Kinfolk Cafe. It's to be able to provide people with that opportunity to make a difference, because across my network I come across people with such incredible talent and skills that don't find that vehicle, and commonly say to myself and other members of our team, hey, I'd love to do something, I'd love to make a difference, but I don't know where to start. So part of our vision and mission is definitely centred on providing that vehicle and just saying, well, here's a way to do it. And for us to look at our network and say, hey, we can open a cafe, and that cafe is going to be different in the sense of competing with other cafes because we have a social vision as opposed to a profit motive. But that's a vehicle for people with hospitality experience or non-hospitality experience to come in and make a tangible difference, feel like they're contributing in some way, and they are, because obviously the profits from our cafe are distributed across the 4 project partners we elect to support. So definitely providing that vehicle, and it's not just within the form of a cafe, it's through events, it's through other social businesses we're trying to launch. It's through creative writing and doing innovative products and projects. But that's the purpose of my passion. I guess the success of the cafe isn't just a social vision. For those that have been down there, it's not just the fact that at the end of each quarter we divide up our profits and based on consumer choice, when you purchase a coffee or a piece of food product, you get to choose where the money goes. You get given a coffee bean and then you put it in a jar according to the 4 projects we support. The success of the cafe is not based on that, it's based on the products and service we have. And so first and foremost, we ensure that that cafe competes with every other cafe in the area on service and product, because people will come for a visit or two if it's a social vision, but they won't continue to return unless it's competing and it satisfies their needs. But it has been a wonderful project and a great human experiment too, in finding out where consumers want to send their money. We had 32% out of 4 projects, 32% go to our Melbourne project, which is through Urban Seed supporting the Credo Cafe in inner city Melbourne for homeless people to have a lunch each and every day. And 32% of the funds went to Urban Seed after the first distribution. And we thought, oh, wonderful, people must be understandably wanting to support projects in their own backyard. When we switched the jars around, we realised people were just lazy, but Melbourne was the first jar. So once we put Melbourne to number 4 and put Ghana project number 1, Ghana's now receiving all the funds. So it is an experiment in human nature, but understandably people are in a rush and might just drop it in the first jar, but others do really care and take their time to read about the projects and make a considered contribution.
And it looks like there's a fair bit of business thinking has gone into Kinfolk. Tell us about how you brought that and used it to sort of mobilise loads of volunteers. What's your skill in that, Elliot?
Skill mixed with a bit of luck. The position of the cafe was a unique windfall for us. But like I was introduced by Jason, I came from a corporate background. I only did 2 years, but I was an accountant at PricewaterhouseCoopers. With my friends that helped start the cafe, we had a diverse skill set. But we were inspired by Muhammad Yunus and his work on social business. And we're looking at starting a social business and wanted to, of course, compete with every other business. But the only difference we have is it's driven by that social motive of making a social change, as opposed to a profit motive in aligning our shareholders' pockets. No offence, Michael, but we're not going to be launching a bank anytime soon in Australia. But the business thinking behind that was definitely just ensuring that it had similar core principles as any other business, but of course, at the end of the day, our vision is very separate, and the reason volunteers and employees work so hard in that cafe is because of the social motive, and that's the outcomes. So it definitely involved both the experience I had at PricewaterhouseCoopers, but leveraging that and also the skill sets of our volunteer network. That was the reason behind what we launched.
And Paul, the wild man, I think we call him the maverick of the heart in the invitation. What are you trying to make happen in the world, Paul?
It's ironic because I once, when I was playing in the Painters and Doctors, my band, I was flown up to Brisbane and I had to, on a current affair, and I had to debate an evangelist up there because he was trying to get my band banned because he said we were Satanists. Because we had this song called Kill, 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 but actually we ripped it off from Get Smart, and we just did our version of it. So it's quite ironic now that my passion is working with a group of nuns in East Timor. These little nuns who... I went up there to make the Balabai movie about my brother, and we met this group of nuns, and there were 6 nuns, and they had 1 motor scooter, and their task was to look after all the disabled kids up in Dili, and so a lot of these nuns would get up and walk about 7 k's first thing in the morning and just go into some little village and go into some room and massage some little kid's legs, just so that the whole village got to appreciate this little kid, and I was just absolutely humbled by these women and just the love that they had for these disabled kids, and they're not getting any reward from it or any great financial, benefits from it, and they just do it through love, and it just humbled me to meet these crew who just go out and do this and work with the absolute lowest of the low, and a teacher once described me as that, so I could relate to working with the lowest of the low. So when we went up there for the Balabai movie, I love being an Australian, I love this country, and I love being here because we went up to make the Balabai film, and we came back and we told people about these nuns when we got back, and we put out a call out for money for these nuns, and we ended up raising about $80,000 to buy them a brand new Tarago with a lift and everything, and I can remember going back to this head nun and saying, "Oh, sister, great news, we've raised 80. And she said, "Oh, Paulie, $80, mate, we can buy rice, we can buy blankets, we can..." I said, "No, 80,000. And she looked at me seriously like, "You're from what planet?" Like, she just couldn't comprehend. And so I've been ongoing doing the work with these nuns, and, you go out with these nuns, they're just so humble. Half of them didn't even own shoes, and then you come back to Australia and people are going, "Oh, the world financial crisis, I can only go to Queensland instead of Europe," and I can't afford, renovations on my holiday house, and it just seems, out of context when you meet these nuns who are just so sort of loving. So it's an ongoing campaign to support them, and I've actually, sit at work, I've got 300 pairs of shoes that the Wiggles gave me, would you believe? True story, the Wiggles. And so my latest passion is trying to get them up to East Timor, hopefully in September. So if anybody would like to get involved with that little project, see me afterwards. Yeah.
He always has a little project up his sleeve. So if you stay in touch with Paul and you want to make a difference, you'll find yourself doing all kinds of wild and crazy things. He seems to romp from project to project and person to person, spreading the love, mate, don't you?
In a nice way.
In a nice way. A reformed way, maybe.
In a reformed way.
I want to turn now to what you think it takes to be a just leader. There are lots of people here who want to make more of a difference and really struggle to do it. What does it take to be a just leader? Because you could have all taken far easier, more conventional roads. Who'd like to start with that one?
Well, I'll kick off this, sort of keep it going. I think, Pamela, for me, it's I think it's actually very simple, and that is you have to have. I think all of us must have a set of sort of core beliefs, things that are important to you, and you get all sorts of catchphrases, whether it's a sort of moral compass or whatever. But at the end of the day, everyone must have things that are values by which they behave. And to me, the really simple thing is that I don't see how those core values should vary in any way whatsoever. So whether it's the way you engage at home with your family, with your partner, with your children, whatever it may be, whether it's the way you engage with friends that you play tennis with or whatever that may be, or the way you behave in making business judgments or engaging with the community. To me, there's just an absolute continuum there. There are absolute core values you have, and I don't see how people can have a sort of different basis for making decisions or judgments depending on what circumstance they're in. And so that, to me, makes it very, very easy. So in a business context, one of the things I sort of often say to people, that thing that you're talking of doing, how would you feel if that was on the front page of the Age tomorrow? From an organisational point of view, would you be completely relaxed about the way that business decision is articulated, what the motivation was, the impact it's going to have on either our people or on our customers or whatever? And if the answer to that is yes, then it seems to me that probably is something that makes sense. But if it's something you would be embarrassed about, then how on earth can you have a sort of a value set that allows you to be party to that? And this is not just around senior people making decisions. In my view, anyone who is involved in that, and indeed from an organisational point of view, anyone who works in an organisation where they feel that they would actually be embarrassed if that ever came to light, whatever that particular thing was, then the question I would ask them is, so what have you done to try and change the value set within that organisation? And if at the end of the day you've tried and you've been unable to change that value set, how on earth can you turn up every day and spend probably the majority of your waking hours working for an organisation that you're embarrassed about? And there's only one thing you can do in that situation. If you can't change it from within, then you should move on to something else. And so I think it's actually very, very simple. My father once said to me that the great thing about telling the truth is you can always remember what you said. So I don't see how you can have one set of truth, in one circumstance, but somehow you can kid yourself that there's another truth somewhere else.
And Paul, what for you does it take to be a just leader?
Certainly, just going back to my work with East Timor, just having met East Timorese people who inspire me, and very early in the piece I found that, and you'll probably both found this as well, that you do put in, and I've got back 10 times the amount. Sure, you heard a monetary figure mentioned that we've raised for East Timor, but like I'm a millionaire what the Timorese have given back to me in love and I often say, I lost one brother in East Timor with Gil now, who just left. That's about his 6th gig that he's done for us at the Jesuits here. And he's got to go back and manage